A very good morning to you. Welcome to the SA Morning. A case of crimen injuria has been opened against Thuja Holdings CEO Mthunzi Mdwaba. The businessman accuses high-ranking government officials of trying to solicit a massive 500 million rand bribe, allegedly on behalf of their ministers. Mdwaba claims this was in exchange for pushing through a 5 billion rand UIF deal. Mdwaba is our guest this morning on the SA Morning. Mr. Mdwaba, thank you for your time and thank you for coming through.
And thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So we did see last week the Secretary General of the African National Congress going to the Sandton police station and opening a case of crimen injuria against you. We have also seen through the media and through a statement that was released from Minister Blade Nzimande saying that he wants you to retract the statements that you've made, and he also wants an apology. Who else have you heard from the ministers that are implicated?
I've heard from Mbalula himself, because other than laying charges for crimen injuria at the Sandton police station, I also got a letter from his attorneys for defamation of character, basically saying I must withdraw, retract and apologize. Also received a letter from Minister Godongwane saying same thing. Then I read as well about Minister Blade Nzimande. I can't remember if I've received a letter. I've really gone through so much. But there's quite a few. They all say the same thing. I haven't received a letter yet from Minister Nxesi, but I believe it's on its way. I've seen also in the media that he's working on it. So, yeah, those are the letters I've got.
So the question that is being asked here is why it is that you didn't actually go to these ministers and speak to them directly. And I say this because we heard Minister Mbalula saying that you are a member of the African National Congress. You yourself have said you've interacted with him informally in various places, and so he's no stranger to you. Why is it that when his name was bandied about by the intermediaries, you didn't pick up the phone and say, Mbalula, this is what I'm hearing, let's talk?
I think, first of all, I don't want the impression to be given that I'm buddy-buddy with ministers. I don't have any ministers who I can call friends. I can't think of any right now, or even deputy ministers, for that matter, that I can refer to as friends. I think it's partly because mostly I haven't been in the country until June of 21. Really, I spent most of my time outside the country. But secondly, I've always made it a habit not to keep politicians at arm's length, to have a relationship where, from a business professional point of view, I can have conversations, but no more than that. So for me, when I'm approached by their people, and I think, as I've explained on quite a few platforms, I don't believe that the one or two people who brokered the facilitation stroke lobbying, we were doing quite a multiplicity of things. I was fighting and defending my valid agreement, which I want to restate again on your program is very valid, okay, signed on the 18th of December 2022. But I had friends who were coming to me and say to me, what's the beef between you and Nxesi? What's the beef between you and this one? And I kept saying, I don't know. Actually, I haven't applied my mind to it. It's only hit me over the weekend what it could be, but I'm not going to digress to that. And so they would say, why don't we send so-and-so to speak to so-and-so? Why don't we send? And a lot of my network were going out and speaking to a number of people. So when some of my friends said, let us see if we can have a conversation. I'm going to say something I haven't said before, on any platform, just to give you something fresh, but without giving too much of what my court case will be. So on the day that there was a memorial service at Rima Church for Dennis George, who used to be the Secretary General of FEDUSA, I was invited to speak because, as you would be aware, my career, or rather my role in the ILO, has meant that I'm friends with trade unions and governments and businesses. So I'm speaking there. I received a call that evening, around about 6:30, 7-ish, to say, Minister Godongwane wants to see you tomorrow. So he wants to see me because Nxesi's referred this matter to him, to Treasury. You would have seen there was a lot of noise made by Nxesi via Sunday World.
What date was this?
This was the 18th of May. I looked it up. over the weekend, because when I knew I was coming in, I thought I might have to mention it. It was the 18th of May that I received this call. And come and meet Minister Kodongwane, because Nxesi had said he's suspending the project, he's cancelling the project. It was, varying as reported by his journalist, and I call him his journalist because he seemed to have been his mouthpiece throughout. He would not cover anything that anybody else says. And so I thought, okay, Treasury Minister wants to see me, why not? Let me go have a look. So I went, got to the venue, was the restaurant Codfather at Waterfall, and I get there, he's not there. So I confirmed the time, we agree the time, and I'm there, he's not there. Instead, I've got some gentleman I've never met before, okay, together with the friend who's brokering. And they start talking to me about the perceptions that cabinet ministers in South Africa have of me. So I said, what perceptions are those? They say, well, that basically you are someone who went out of his way to prepare a platform for the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, to be the chair of the Global Commission on the Future of Work. And I was one of 28 people in the world in that Commission on the Future of Work. It was preparing for the centenary of the ILO celebration in 2019. And so I could have actually worked on getting anybody there, but I thought, as a patriot, let me get my president there. But it appears, I learned that day, for the first time in 4 or 5 years, that apparently the belief, they refused that I brief the president when he arrived in Geneva. He gave me 10 minutes, and he looked like he wasn't paying attention to me, but I thought I'm imagining it, And I thought I'd speak to the guy for about an hour at least, because he doesn't know the environment. They tell me that day that there's a belief that I'm a Zuma person. I said, I'm a Zuma person? Yes. So I was setting him up. I wanted him to go there and then setting him up for failure. As things would happen, and I don't want to take too much time on this, we ended up having a disagreement with the president because he never listened to my briefing. And in the 10 minutes, I said to him, if Mr. President, at any stage you think I am going against what you are trying to do as a co-chair, because he was co-chairing with Prime Minister Stefan Löfven, stop the meeting, ask me to the side so I can explain. He never stopped the meeting. Now I learn it's because he believed I was there to do something to him. So anyway, we finished that conversation. I clarified with them. They said, no, they have to speak with him. They have to speak with a few of the ministers to explain to them that this was the whole misunderstanding. Then the conversation takes a different character. So they say, well, you do know that the election is coming up. So I said, yes, of course. Who doesn't know that? They said, well, there's need for money. I said, oh, okay. They said, and the UIF normally is where the people go. I said, oh, how do they go? He said, no, there's ways and whatever. So I said, well, what has it got to do with me? And then they say, well, you've got this, it's a sizable amount of money, maybe you could, help in paying for the election. I said, guys, come on. Then they said, well, also you must just be practical. Do you understand that these are ministers who know they might not be back after the election? They know, and they haven't worked, they haven't saved, they haven't... I said, guys, come on. Yes, So in that particular meeting, they were trying to convince me, and I could see they were checking me out as to see how I'm going to respond. So I said, guys, this is not the kind of thing I think is to be encouraged, because, this is public money. This is money, whatever amount of money people would be wanting, this is money that's intended for the 700,000 jobs that I want to create. This is for people who are poor in this country, for people who are not getting jobs. The UIF is struggling. All of us are struggling. The subsequent meeting that happened, the figure was actually mentioned that it's 10%. I was to learn that 10% is the going rate for gateway fees in the country. Now, I was a bit out of touch, I must guess, that I don't spend too much time here at home, that this is the going rate. In fact, I was to learn from one or two people that are confidants of mine that, they are even referred to as the 10% people, and so on.
So you are a businessman and you've been in this for a while.
Yeah.
Are you saying that this is the first time that you've ever had to pay, quote-unquote, gateway fees or facilitation fees, or there was ever an expectation for a cut?
It's not the first time there's been an expectation for a cut in my life, but it was a long time ago, the last time it was mentioned. So I was still the CEO and chairman of Talk IT, 2003, 2004. We would participate in tenders with the State Information Technology Agency. We would win every time. Talk IT became the leading training solutions provider, full stop, high technical. We built it in 27 countries, and it was referred to as the coffee shop of the industry. So everybody had to be trained by Talk if you wanted to be serious about what you do. We would win the tender, but for some reason I would be called to speak to the CEO have conversations about the implementation. And in the implementation, he would say, you need to speak to so-and-so. I would say, but why am I speaking to so-and-so? He says, no, that's just how we do things, have coffee with so-and-so. I said, but why am I having coffee? Eventually, I realized that it was because a bribe has to be paid. I went back to my office. I told my salespeople that all business with government ends today. My salespeople nearly killed me, because we had Arrivia.com, we had State Information Technology Agency. Telkom, fortunately, was not classified as government. It's just an entity, because it was one of our largest clients. And all those businesses that I felt were jeopardizing the way we work and our principles, I said we stop. Of course, it took them. I also knew that it's a matter of time before they come back and say to us, please, let's work with you, because the stupidity of how they did things was that because we're like a coffee shop in the industry, we would train data, we would train business connection, we would train data centrics, we would train T-systems. So all these people would participate with us in the tenders, and they would put up their own markup. So the government ended up coming to me and saying to me, why are you not responding anymore? I said, no, because I'm called to go for coffees that I don't understand when I've already won. And when we win and I say I don't want to go for coffee, they close the tender and reopen and re-advertise, and we win it again. I said, this is moronic. This is rubbish.
Is this what happened with this particular UIF deal? As in, at what point did the 10% start coming up? Did it come up during the negotiation processes?
No.
Or did it come up after pen had been put to paper and the deal was signed?
It came after the Nlesi-led attack in the media, after the agreement had been signed. We started this on the 29th of December, and then there was a toing and froing of letters and whatever. He was doing investigations of different kinds. And then from about April, everybody started understanding that, my God, something is happening here. May, June, then we started looking at alternative ways of finding a way to resolve the thing, because my partners, a lot of my projects, I've got projects nationally. I think that's the thing you must also understand about this, Tammy. It's a national project that I've got about 22, 23 different deals, projects waiting, losing money every day, losing the things they have to be able to create jobs. 15,000 jobs, for example, the Thuja Lifestyle Project in Mandeni Municipality, owned by a lady by Oriana, and many others throughout the country, right? Now, people were starting to say, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to court? And you can imagine every time I have to update all these 23, 24 people. So it's only now, during this period, that this thing emanated. As I told you, it was the 18th of May that this started to happen.
So December, the 18th, no, not the 18th, December, yeah, the 18th of December,
yeah.
It was signed. The deal was signed, 18th of December.
Yeah.
Also, I think it was the 29th of December. I know it was just 29th of December. That's when the article
Best New Year's Eve I've ever had.
Must have been something else.
Yes.
So the article comes out.
Yeah.
There's controversy
Yeah.
around this UIF deal, etc. So by the time May happened,
Yeah.
how many interactions and how many conversations about this 10% had actually taken place?
None.
So was the 18th of May the first time?
It's first time.
That the 10%
First time ever. First time. I had had people mentioning to me, on the side that,
And how can you verify, though, that these are legitimate claims?
I can.
And that this wasn't an issue of name dropping?
Tammy, you do recall that I'm a lawyer by training. I think you remember that, at least.
Yes, entertainment lawyer.
I used to be an entertainment lawyer, but I'm a lawyer. I'm a commercial lawyer.
Yes.
I was trained as a commercial lawyer, became an entertainment lawyer, an intellectual property lawyer. But and I understand legal strategy. I understand legalese, right? And I've gone too far in my life in terms of my credibility in the United Nations, leading all the employers of the world, to take a risk by just going and say things I can't prove. I would never do that, right? But there's also a separation between the public, what you share to the public, which, by the way, has given me an untold response. I never could have imagined the response I've had, okay? Over 7,000 new followers on Twitter just in the last 5 days, okay? People telling me how, thank you for coming out and being relieved and asking and saying this is inspiration. So there's separation, what you can share in the public and what you must share in court.
Do you consider yourself a whistleblower? Would you call yourself a whistleblower?
I never thought of it like that when I went out. I must tell you, I didn't think I'm a whistleblower. But because people love labels, everybody likes a label so that you can conveniently be put somewhere. Maybe you could call me that, but I haven't felt like a whistleblower. Some people have called me an impimpi. I've gone out and I've spied on the ANC, I've spied on people. Maybe I'm also corrupt. Maybe I didn't get my way in the corruption negotiation table. I mean, unfortunately, these are the things that happen. If these are the things that happen to whistleblowers, I'm not sure I want to be called a whistleblower. I'm just a business guy who wants to see things done differently. I want to see my country operating differently. I want to change the lives of people. I want, you know, my purpose, Tammy, in life, my purpose has always been change, impact, and global social justice, okay? But unfortunately, justice, I've learned, when somebody sees that it doesn't affect them, they don't speak. They'd rather leave it. They leave it for someone else until it affects them. That is an unfortunate thing about justice. So for me, I'm driven by one simple thing. I have led my life the way I have led my life all over the world, over 187 countries, doing things that will build humanity. I have come home to leave a legacy and do something that I believe is amazing in creating employment for over 700,000 jobs. And that's just a minimum, because these are funds that will be matched by friends of mine all over the world, right? I'm driven by that, not by whistleblowing, not because I'm trying to be a hero. I had no clue. I had to agonize myself on how am I going to deal with this nonsense?
How can you say you didn't have a clue? And I ask you this because you are a member of the African National Congress. And so you know, perhaps more than others who are not, what actually happens inside. One thing that the Zondo Commission ventilated to South Africa is, I guess, the greasing mechanism and the greasing that takes place in order for things to happen. I mean, you look at the Vrede Dairy Farm project, you look at you look at the asbestos project. It almost seems like that is just the way that things are done.
Okay.
So how can you say you did not know?
So let's first clear up this ANC membership. I think it's becoming a little bit of a challenge. I said in one of my interviews that I'm so relieved to hear that I'm still an ANC member when Mbalula mentioned it, because I sent my card, I think 5-6 years ago, for renewal of membership. I've never seen it again, so I didn't even know I'm a member. But I haven't been in an ANC member anything. I mean, my building in Rivonia, I Talk IT, used to be used by the Rivonia heroes. Okay? All the youth league, the women's league, whatever, I used to cater for them, I used to do everything. But this is like 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 maybe, right? I haven't been in an ANC meeting, anything, since maybe 2010.
But this
right?
is nothing new. The ANC didn't start in 2010.
No, I know this, but no one's ever had the guts to talk to me about that. All my friends will tell me, you know, I don't pay a traffic ticket bribe. My family calls me and begs me. They call and beg me and say, come on. You know, the one time I was parked in Kronstadt with my kids in the car, my daughter in the UK just arrived the day before, we're going home for Christmas. We were there for 4.5 hours because they wanted a bribe. I said, no, I broke the law. I did whatever it is, it's 2,000 rand for bail. I'll pay the bail money. I'll come back to court. But I'm refusing to do this. So my friends know this. And it's almost like a joke. They say, yes, when I'm for it, you are too straight. You know, you've got to find a way to work with. I don't do things like that. And people, as a result, are scared to talk to me about things like that. They don't have the nerve. I don't even think the ministers would have the nerve to discuss it with me, ever. Because they know of me. You must remember that at the level that I was, the ministers are actually probably on a level, I mean, from a peer point of view, I'm higher than ministers in terms of my life. I've talked to prime ministers, I've talked to presidents, I've talked to ministers, I've talked to leaders of trade unions and leaders of businesses. So for me, people know of my reputation, they know of me. They're not going to easily broach a topic like that. So I think, I just want, this ANC thing is misleading to say I'm an ANC member. And I was not here, Tammy, for 13 years. I was in Switzerland most of the time, or I was on an aeroplane. Before the COVID, I was doing 30 countries a year of flying, right? I wasn't home. So I'm settling at home. I'm back June, as I said, June, July 21, right? And I'm settling. I'm trying to reintegrate. And so for me, part of my agonizing was like, I'm trying to reintegrate, and I can see. I read things about Zondo. I read about how bad things are. But you know, little did I think it would happen to me, because I thought they don't have the nerve to discuss it with me, to ever say a thing like that with me. And I didn't see it coming, because I was busy fighting with Mthunzi about a valid agreement that he has unlawfully hijacked for his own agenda of wanting to remove people at the UIF and the DG so that he can eat, as I'm told.
We spoke earlier on about Fikile Mbalula and why it is that you didn't go to him, ANC, etc. But you are also on WhatsApp relationship with Thuja.
No, I used to.
Because you circulated those WhatsApp messages.
Did you see the one I circulated this morning?
No, I didn't see.
Okay, the one I circulated this morning, the date was the 5th of May 2021, because I told him that if he doesn't sign my annual performance plan because he refuses, he doesn't agree with my forward on my annual report at Productivity SA, I'm going to make him sign it. Apparently, he spent the whole night till 2 a.m. trying to figure whether I would make him sign it. And they said, yes, he can make you sign it. And he signed the following day. That's the last day the guy spoke to me ever. His birthday, by the way, is June the 9th. I knew it because he shares it with my mother, right? But that June 9th, he never responded. That's the last email, that's the last WhatsApp message I have from him. When I said happy birthday, there was no acknowledgement, there was no nothing. The next thing I knew was in September, 5 months later, him attacking my campaign, decampaigning me with all his friends, all his nefarious friends all over the world. I don't have a relationship with Thuja Nxesi. And even in the messages that I've put on X, you'd have seen I was asking him to say, why don't we meet? Why don't you and I get together and deal with the issues that you seem to have? He said, no. Why must he deal? I've told you I don't like this independence you keep talking about. I've told you you're condemning my government. I said, but it's not your government. It's my government too. And it's my country as well. So there's no open line that I have with anybody, Tami.
9th of June is when you received the last message from Thuja Nxesi.
No. I sent the last message,
okay,
me.
And he didn't respond?
No.
He didn't respond to that?
The one before was the 5th of May when I said, sign the APP, and he signed it.
What I'm saying is that between December 2022 and June the 9th,
yeah,
that's a whole 6 months.
Yeah.
And May is when you first received the allegations or the request for those brokering fees, when you met with the gentleman,
yeah,
the 18th of May, when you met with the gentleman at Codfather. So there's a month between May and June when you could have...
No, you've used your years incorrectly. So May 21...
It's 2021.
...is the last time. I sent him May 21 to say you'll sign the APP. I sent him happy birthday on June 9, 2021.
No. I'm not talking about the APP. I'm talking about the meeting that you had that was allegedly called.
Yes, but the meeting is in May 23. That's what I'm saying. There's a gap of 2 years in between. You seem to be going back and forth.
I'm talking about here. Let's get this clear, right? Yeah. The dates. When you got the message for Minister Godongwane to meet at Codfather.
Yes.
And this was after Dennis George's memorial service.
Yes. That
was May, which year?
23.
May 2023. Right.
2 years later.
2 years later. All
after the last message between me and Nxesi. And in between, he's gone and attacked me, my person. He's attacked my campaign. I was meant to be the first African. I was lobbied for 2 years by the South African government. Lobbied. I was refusing. The minister, the past minister, Oliphant, begged me. I was called to a hotel to be told you are being deployed, you are going to agree. And eventually I agreed. And then when I'm doing it, he comes and he decampaigns me 5 months after that last message in 2021, where he lies and he goes to cabinet and he lies about me, and he's got some ministers who were lying with him. One of them is implicated again. You know, so I haven't had communication.
So when you say he lied...
he lies constantly.
Using your... What have you done about that? Have you called him to... have you reported him to, I guess, his authorities?
2021, I sent him a letter of defamation to stop lying about me. But you must remember, when somebody lies in cabinet, they're also protected. You don't know. There was no cabinet meeting a minute. I was told by people who were there, whose names, of course, I can't mention, who were themselves in the meeting to say, hey, we tried to explain. We hoped you'd be called to give your side of the story. But nobody called me. I was told what the president said in closing the meeting, which was very disappointing. And I'll wait until I meet the president to ask him how he could close the meeting without giving me a right to speak for myself when I'm accused.
Did the president say why? Was it mentioned?
In that meeting?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
And what was it?
I'd rather not say it today. Please, can I focus today? I want to focus on my job creation project, Tan. I keep talking about all these things, but my job creation project. Will we get there?
We'll definitely get to the job creation project.
Okay, so then what did he say?
Yes.
So, okay. You're pushing me. So he said, apparently, one of the people in there. So remember, Naledi Pandor, Minister Naledi Pandor, had gone to SADC to sell my candidacy. Now, all of SADC supported me. Minister Naledi Pandor had also gone to the African Union to sell my candidacy. It was already agreed that there must only be one African candidate because there'd never been an African since 1919 when the ILO started, right? And that was the strategy. But instead, when I was attacked that day, now Lady Pando was not there. I know she wasn't, because apparently she was furious that this happened, but we can talk about that on another day. And then some people tried to say, hey, we know this guy is robust. We know, yes, but he knows his stuff, and we've worked with him. And some people said, no, you know. Then the president apparently said, so Nxesi, Blade Nzimande, Ibrahim Patel were the ones at that particular meeting. That's the SACP brigade I see that's always following me around. And you could see they were prepared from the people that were there. They were the only ones that were prepared, because the DG, who's just resigned, was going to just present my credentials. It was just a mere formality, because I'm already SADC, African Union. Who expects South Africa to undo all of that? But they had planned to do it. The president apparently said, yeah, I know this Mthunzi from Geneva. He's anti-worker. That's what I was, anti-trade unionist, basically. Okay, that's what I'm told he said. Okay, so I was like shocked. I thought, how can I be anti-trade unionist? Yes, I was the leader of employers in the world, with the leader of trade unions and the leader of government. That doesn't mean I'm anti-trade union. The structure of the ILO is tripartite. The three work together hand in hand. So he had lied there and made some amazing claims. And because there was no Nxesi, okay. But because it's not minuted, I had to wait for him to say them outside. So when I heard it said things outside, then only then can I say, now you are defaming. So I sent him a defamation letter, round about, I think February of 2022, because the election was on the 25th of March 2022. But my team and I agreed that don't be derailed. Focus. You got 1 month before the election. Remember, they also reneged on giving me 8 million rand for my support, which had been approved about a year and a half, 2 years prior, when I was being lobbied to do this. Every other candidate was given money, about 1.5 million euros or dollars or whatever, for their campaign, right? Mine was withdrawn. I ended up having to use my cash, use crowdfunding to be able to do this. So my guy said, let's focus. So for a month...
So yours was withdrawn because the government was no longer backing you and supporting you for that?
Yeah, withdrawn is mild. They systematically decampaigning me by going to all the countries that were supporting me diplomatically, writing letters and saying, we shall not support this guy, and doing deals at my name. For example, Russia at the time had just attacked Ukraine, and Russia was my support, China was my support, Brazil was my support. They went into the BRICS, and for South Africa to support Russia against Ukraine, I'm a little fish. They said, if you support this guy, we can't support you in the United Nations, Russia. Gone. Support gone. And they did that systematically with all their relationships, country to country and whatever. Now, remember, it's a country thing. Only countries can make sure you win. I still went and lost on the 25th of March, 2022. Lost in the second round, but they were still very nervous that I might still make it. Mqolisi Nkosi, the ambassador currently, who's Thulas Nxesi's friend, apparently was limping all over the ILO building there, trying to make sure that I don't make it. But he's lied again many times now when I read about things. I mean, you know he's right. He lied about Zuma in the pool, I don't know, some fire pool. So he's a guy who lies. He's a chronic liar, Nxesi. Okay? So there's no point in even trying to speak to him, because even the people that were sent to him by friends of mine who have relationships with him, even Lumkom Timde, who's his advisor now, before he was advisor, I know people who were sent to go and speak to him and whatever. And from what I was given as feedback was that, no, there's no problem. Unless he says there's no problem between the two of you. So everybody said, oh, okay, then.
So are you saying that if you had paid that 500 million rand, all of this would have gone away, and relationships between yourselves? Because a lot of this also looks very personal, beyond in anything else. It sounds just very, very personal. Would this all have gone away?
I don't know, Tammy. I don't know. I really don't know. I have no clue. All I know is that I've been told stories, things have been unraveling, and told that no, things have been cleared and explained to the president, that I've never had any personal beef with him. I've never had any personal beef with anybody. In fact, I don't do that. Me, I was taught by my aunts, you know, my family taught me, you always tackle the ball. Never tackle the men. I don't tackle the men. I tackle the ball.
You're currently running a campaign, hashtag Mthunzi Mdwaba anti-corruption. And this is to raise money, you say, for the legal fees.
And beefing my security.
And beefing up your security. And you've said this is because state resources are going to be used in order to challenge you, and you as an individual don't have those kind of resources. Is this a campaign that is going to continue even after the entire Mthunzi Mdwaba case? Or is this for this case?
That's actually a good question. Because, you know, for somebody who I didn't think about this, remember. I just thought about coming out, about me, so that I can sleep better at night, and making sure that this country, somehow, somebody knows things can continue. And as I said, now that I've got over 7,500 new followers on Twitter, and I read the things people are saying on LinkedIn, people are writing me stories and their life stories and the disappointments they've had with their own deals, where they've been attacked. Some people have been to ICU, some people have committed suicide because of our beautiful country. That, you know, I think that the anti-corruption fund, I've started it because for 10 months I've been using my own cash beyond the money I've already spent on the project to defend. Thuja Nxesi keeps on using state attorneys and then appoints some councils and whatever, and I've been using my cash throughout. But now that you ask me the question, and I never thought about it until now, I must tell you, because you asked me this question, I think perhaps this is something that Thuja, when implemented, because it will be implemented and I will create those jobs, right? I think when it does implement, I must continue with this anti-corruption, because clearly it's much bigger than what even I realized. So actually, yes, I will.
You will continue?
Yes, only because I've thought about it now.
You mentioned earlier on about issues of integrity, that's important to you. You would not take a bribe. But one of the issues that was brought up by Minister Nxesi is exactly that, an issue of integrity, that you were found to be a delinquent director. This is also something that compromised your position when you were at the University of the Western Cape there as chair. Talk to us about that delinquency and how that is now following you around.
Okay, so let's look into this. So the delinquency directorship, the law, companies law in South Africa, it changed apparently, I don't know, 2009, 2010, to introduce this delinquency directorship. I was traveling already between San Francisco, Geneva, and Joburg, and I was negligent in not realizing that people I was fighting with, I was chairman of Young and Rubicam, the advertising agency at the time. I was a shareholder in a company called Memeza with Mavuso Msimang and Peter Katuliba. Mavuso Msimang, I did not realize, was siding with a guy called Yossi Schwartz, very bad human being, who was the CEO of Young and Rubicam at the time. And I picked up that there was a fronting that was happening, and I was chairing Young and Rubicam, and I felt I can't be part of a front. And I tried to report this front to the DTI. They did nothing. Surprise, surprise. Nobody ever does anything. And then in the mix, they found a weakness in my chink. And the weakness was I was supposed to have called a meeting, apparently, of shareholders, which any shareholder could have called. So for not calling this meeting, they went to court and said I was a delinquent director. A very over-enthusiastic judge who loved having a case for the first time on a delinquency directorship, because it was the first one, said I'm a delinquent director because I did not call a meeting. So where does integrity come in failing to call a meeting? I was negligent, yes, I did not call a meeting. Then I got better advice, Tammy. My lawyers at the time said, yeah, it's new law. If you appeal, you could end up with a full bench judgment against you. Rather let sleeping dogs lie. The worst mistake I ever made in my life. The worst mistake I ever made. Because now every Tom, Dick, and Dlamini or Khadebe who wanted to get to me when I was trying to do work against people who have no integrity, against people who want to hijack governance, would go and use this against me. So at UWC, which has nothing to do with, that's what Blade Nzimande apparently said in cabinet. He said, yeah, I also wanted to get rid of him at UWC, which he can't. It's not in his power. I was appointed by council. It's not by ministers. It's the council that appoints you. So when I was there getting rid of some very bad apples, who I'm told are circulating things on WhatsApp now, a guy called Brian Williams, a guy called Songez or somebody, who they would come onto the council via convocation. And these guys for years were a problem to the university. But I come now, its fees must fall. We get stories about how they are working with some Fundisi whose name I can't remember. They're giving petrol bombs to the students. They're doing all kinds of things. So we start working against them. There's a colleague of mine who was on the board with me, on the council with me, by the name of J.J. Tabani at the time. The two of us, they took the university to court. And in taking the university to court, remember, not us, the university, they then mentioned that I was a delinquent director. The judge loves this, of course, because everybody, as soon as you say delinquent director, everybody thinks, oh, he's stolen money, or there was fraud somewhere, or something happened somewhere. No, I failed to call a meeting. It made headlines in Cape Town that the judge had said this chairperson is a delinquent director, and my colleague had also said these are people that are a cancer, and I should not have aligned myself to calling people a cancer. Cut a long story short, we got rid of these people on the UWC council, right? Investor of the Western Cape has been free since then. Why? Because I fought for it. Because I took the lashes in terms of that, and I was attacked for that, right? Now, fast forward, 2017, when I'm nominated to become the leader of the International Organization of Employers, which is the largest private sector business organization in the world with over 150 business organizations, had not had an African since 1920, the IOE. These things come up. I think evil people always find each other. They collaborate better than people in the light. So they found each other. The next thing, the whole world is talking about my direct delinquency. The whole world. Literally.
So why did you not at that point actually challenge it if you felt that you were being unfairly accused?
No, listen, I did. And then what happens is that the Swiss and the Europeans look into this. There's legal opinions and whatever. And the Swiss turn around and they say, this is at the time. Before my election, they say, you know, if we as Switzerland were to have a law like this, where somebody fails to call a meeting and becomes a delinquent director, every businessman in Switzerland would be a delinquent director. So, you know, actually, it's rubbish. We throw it out. That's how I was appointed the leader of the IOE, the leader of the ILO in 2017. But I was then told this thing has a statutory period. Because now I've failed to do anything about it. I was given bad advice. I was told 7 years after the date. Now, the date was 2012. 2019, I think June, July, it ends, gone, okay, statutorily, told by the late advocate Gerrie Meyer, who was my counsel, tells me this. But I still insist, you know what, I want to have a court order. He says, yeah, but you're wasting money. It's going to cost about 150,000 just to get a court order. It's finished. I said, no, I've been attacked enough with this thing. I want it gone. I want to even see a piece of paper that says it's confirmed, it's gone, right? Now, before Mlesi goes to cabinet, the day before, I get a call in September now of 2022. I get a call that he's asked about my director delinquency. I'm asked to write a paragraph and send it to the DG Lamati, who's just resigned. So I send the paragraph explaining what I've just explained to you, and explaining that 7 years has gone, it's finished, and explaining that on the 12th of October 2022, which should have been maybe 18 days after he's in cabinet, I'm also going to have a piece of paper that also shows this, because I knew there was a court date already to do it. And I got it. I have it. I can make it available to you. Court order that says retrospectively there's no such a thing, but it was the calling of a meeting, Tammy.
Another issue that was brought onto the table is that you actually didn't submit your particular proposal under the Labour Activation program, that you didn't formally submit the bid, but that it was something that was unsolicited a few years ago, and so your procedures were actually flawed. What is your response to that? Another lie.
And you see, and I'm happy that actually that you're giving me this opportunity to clear all these things, because my biggest problem has been this noise that's now deafening my project. So, 4.5 years ago, colleagues of mine and myself are looking at how, as I'm doing up and down to Switzerland, and I'm mindful that the financial crisis of 2009, 8-9 had left us worse off in terms of unemployment. I'm conscious that the UIF is losing money, because the UIF, as you would imagine, only makes money through collecting monies from people who are at work. I'm realizing that, like water and like electricity, the UIF is going to run out of money. I then come up with this project, a very innovative, disruptive project, but with ideas from everybody. Cover 8 sectors of the economy. We're going to do what Talk IT used to do, the company of mine that I say I built in 27 countries. But we're going to multiply Talk IT into 8 sectors, because Talk IT was a technology expert, into 8 sectors, but also create a way of being able to close the gap Talk IT could not close, because Talk IT would achieve a 75 to 80% conversion rate from training to employability, and I always wanted to close this gap, right? Anyway, so I discussed this with the Minister of Labour then, as she was, Minister Mildred Oliphant, the one who lobbied me to be we're in Geneva, actually, at the time. So I asked her. At the time, I also thought, maybe I'm smoking something very strong and illegal. You know, I want to test this. So I mentioned it to her. She gets extremely excited. She then says, please mention it to the DG. I mentioned it to the DG. He gets extremely excited. He says, then they say, but they have to send it to the PIC, because their modus operandi in terms of their partnership with the PIC is that the PIC is the one that deliberates on these matters. It goes to the PIC. It sits in the PIC for 8 or 9 months. It takes me, I think, 7 months to even get a non-disclosure agreement out of the PIC. I mean, that's how long justice takes in South Africa. I'm trying to create jobs, but I can't get an NDA, which we do in business over 10 minutes, right? I can't get an NDA. And then the PIC, lo and behold, says, we love this. It's an amazing project, but it's not in our mandate. We're sending it back to the UIF. They send it back to the UIF. I have a conversation with some people who say, yeah, the UIF Act forces the UIF to send things to the PIC. I said, but that can't be right. Something is wrong, logically and legally. And I read the Act myself, and I find, in fact, they're talking nonsense. Because, and in the Act, it says you must give monies to the PIC. It says you may. You may, not must. But
what's the due diligence done on this project?
What do you call due diligence? Because I don't want to fall into this due diligence. Every time I get asked, but nobody understands what due diligence is.
What's important is what their definition is of due diligence.
Who's
because
they?
Ultimately, the Unemployment Fund, the UIF,
okay.
They were supposed to do the due diligence.
Yeah.
The Department of Employment and Labour,
yeah.
They are the key stakeholder here.
Yeah.
And so, according to them, it is the due diligence that they'd requested. According to the record that
but I haven't answered your first question, and I insist on finishing it. It took long, but I have to finish it because you asked me. I did not go through the process, and I was making my way there.
I'd like when you
I went through the process, but I went through the process because the DG had a call for proposals subsequently in 2019. Thuja Capital then submitted through a tender process. Processes were followed. COVID happened. I even met a guy called Thulani Chifuta, who's the chair of the committee.
So are you saying, let me see if I get you right.
Yeah.
Are you saying that before the call for applications was made, this process of already trying to plug those 700,000 jobs had already started because you were on the board of Productivity SA?
No,
and it's one of the reasons why you wanted it done?
Tammy, you're also confusing your facts now. Productivity SA is coming out for the first time, and Productivity SA is the kind of thing I call obfuscation. It's smokes and mirrors. Productivity SA has nothing to do with this. Productivity SA has no conflict, because now you're going into another issue that he raised. There's a conflict.
That was brought up by
There's no such a thing. No, there's no such a thing. He's talking absolute nonsense, and he knows that, right? In fact, it went in Productivity SA to the ACC, the Audit Risk Committee, where they were looking at whether I, as Thuja, could give money to Productivity SA, because Productivity SA needs money very badly. Okay, thanks to this same minister who doesn't understand an employment policy tweak, right? Now, the ACC said, yeah, of course you can give money. We found that in the Constitution and in the Act. Productivity SA, please, for the ones who are uninitiated, is created through the Employment Services Act. I think Section 31 and Section 32. It is for the enabling of creation of jobs, the enabling of retention of jobs, the enabling of competitiveness. Does not create jobs like I would create jobs.
You know why this is important?
It's a collaboration, and it would work in a collaborative thing rather than a conflict thing. But I also, only because I'm a governance person, declared it 3 times, even though my board could not understand why I'm declaring.
Let me state why this is important, Mr. Mdwaba. It's important because it's what Minister Nxesi also highlighted, the conflict of interest, because you're on the board, you are the chair of Productivity SA, and then also now you are the CEO of Thuja Holdings for this vehicle which is supposed to create the 700,000 jobs. So that is the reason that he put down.
But Productivity SA has a board that is the accounting authority for Productivity SA. Productivity SA has nothing to do with the Department of Employment and Labour, other than the fact that it's the custodian department. The law wants us to meet the minister as the board once a year. He failed for 4 years to meet the board so we can account to him. We have nothing to do with the governance processes of the department. We have nothing to do with any process. And we don't see the people there. We don't know what they do there.
Are you confident that you can win this case?
I'm not confident that I can. I'm confident that I will. There's a very big difference. You mean the contract now?
The contract as well as...
I'll win all my cases, Tammy.
There too.
All my cases, Tammy, shall be won. My valid contract is going to be implemented because I've done everything that needs to be done except to be corrupt. I've done everything that needs to be done except pay these gateway fees, which I'm told is the new normal in South Africa. It will change this new normal. The new normal we need is a new normal where people like you and me can, through our talents and our skills and our resources and the things we do, win the things we need to do and change what happens on the ground for our people. And for me, why I also agreed that I would continue with this anti-corruption fund and anti-corruption activities is that I've just realized in the last few days over the weekend that actually this is now bigger than me. It's not about me. I don't know if you think it's not about me anymore. And anybody who thinks it's about me is actually, it's foolhardy, okay? It's now about the people of South Africa. The money that I will be given belongs to the South African people. The UIF money is public money. And good that we have this public discussion, okay? And now, a lot of people I'm discovering either end up losing their dream through taking their lives or suffering ill health because people attack them. They get fired. I got a guy this weekend was telling me he was fired because he refuses to play ball. They send, I'm part of WhatsApp groups now that I never knew existed, which is great. I'm finally reintegrating into South Africa now. People think they know there's somebody called Mthunzi. And you know, from a spiritual point of view, which I am, by the way, extremely spiritual, people don't understand when I say this thing had to happen the way it's happening. Everything happens as it should, right? Because I think that I had to go through this path, this journey of reveal, of showing how things must not be done by the dark, of how people who go into the light must do things. I think I'm sitting exactly where I should be sitting. I'm sitting and doing the things my purpose is calling for, justice, and I will see it done. My project is going to be implemented, and I will go to court, and I will prove in court that these are rotten scoundrels, rotten people who must be taken. But a legal case is a legal case. It's separate from what the public wants. I know the public, the world of Twitter and the world of social media wants you to give. Tell us, what have you got? I'm not stupid, okay? I'm a guy who thinks about everything I do. There's no way I would have become the leader of employers in the world, Tammy, if I just, you know...
We're going to have to wrap. You've spoken about the contract, and yes, you're confident with that.
Yeah.
The names that you've given, Fikile Mbalula, Thuja Nxesi, Inokotongwana, there's also Blade and Zemande. Do you have solid evidence and proof against them too, individually, for this case?
Yes.
Written?
I have solid proof, yes.
And you will present that in the court of law?
I have solid proof, yes.
And so you stand by your statement?
I stand by my statement, and in due course, I shall also be writing letters back to say, quite frankly, I fail to understand why I must apologize for something that is true and something I believe. If people then want to do, they must do what they have to do. I've also said on other platforms, I'm not driven, by the way, by popularity contests. I think that's the one thing that's always made me very controversial with people. I do what I feel I must do. I'm happy to go against the stream any time of the day. I've done it so many times in my life, and I'll continue.
Mr. Mdwaba, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
That was Thuja Capital and Thuja Holding CEO Mthunzi Mdwaba. He says he stands by his word, and yes, all those that he has implicated and named, he says he's got the proof, and going to court and going all the way is not an issue for him.